Let me tell you a secret the credit industry does not want you to comprehend. Your credit score is not merely a numerical representation of your financial reliability. It is a pervasive digital shadow, a permanent ledger that follows you, influencing the most critical junctions of your adult life. It dictates the roof over your head, the transportation you rely upon, and the cost of every major loan you will ever secure. For millions, this shadow is not a neutral record. It is a spectral reminder of past crises, medical, entrepreneurial, personal, that feels like an inescapable life sentence. You are inundated with a familiar, simplistic chorus of advice. Pay your bills on time, reduce your credit utilization, check your report for errors. This guidance is not incorrect. It is, however, a superficial prescription for a complex disease. It treats the symptom, the low score, while ignoring the profound systemic infection beneath. What is more disturbing is the burgeoning industry that preys upon the desperation this situation creates. An industry selling magical thinking, exploiting a fundamental human desire, the wish for a painless, rapid escape. This is where we must begin, with an uncomfortable truth that forms the cornerstone of every genuine recovery. Following the common, oversimplified path to credit repair can, in many cases, actively sabotage your long-term financial health. It can waste your most precious resources: time, money, and emotional capital. Consider the individual who, in a panicked attempt to fix their score, indiscriminately pays off old collections accounts only to see their score drop because the account's date of last activity is updated, making the negative item appear fresh to the scoring algorithms. Or the person who closes their only credit card after paying it off, inadvertently destroying their credit age and total available credit, causing their utilization to soar. These are not theoretical missteps. They are daily occurrences in the well-intentioned but misguided journey of credit repair. This self-sabotage stems from a critical misunderstanding. We are conditioned to view credit scoring as a test of morality, a score of good versus bad behavior. This is a dangerous fallacy. The credit scoring system is an amoral, algorithmic engine designed for one primary purpose: to predict risk for lenders. It does not judge your character. It calculates your probability of default within a specific time frame. When you internalize this, your entire approach must shift. You stop pleading for fairness and start engaging in strategic, evidence-based intervention. You move from being a supplicant to becoming a system operator. This leads us to the core of our discussion today. We are moving beyond platitudes and entering the realm of documented tactical reconstruction. The narratives you are about to encounter are not hypothetical scenarios or aggregated internet wisdom. They are drawn from a confidential archive I refer to as the Forbidden Vault, a collection of real, anonymized case studies from a private financial rehabilitation practice. These cases represent individuals who did not merely improve their numbers. They engineered a comprehensive financial resurrection by understanding and manipulating the underlying mechanics of the credit system, often in ways that contravene conventional advice. The methodologies employed were not universal fixes, but bespoke strategies, tailored to the specific origin of the credit collapse and the individual's financial physiology. We will examine three archetypal, yet profoundly distinct scenarios: the medical avalanche, where perfect credit is obliterated by survival itself; the entrepreneurial implosion, where personal and business finances combust together; and the divorce earthquake, where a legal decree proves worthless against the relentless reporting of credit bureaus. Each case study will dissect the critical wrong turns taken, the psychological barriers encountered, and the precise, often counterintuitive sequence of actions that led to true recovery. Their journeys began not with a disputation letter or a new credit application, but with a moment of brutal, uncomfortable clarity. It is the same clarity you must confront now. The first step towards a legitimate credit comeback is the abandonment of the victim mindset and the acceptance of a new reality. You are not a passive casualty of an opaque system. You are an active participant in a highly regulated game with defined rules, predictable behaviors, and exploitable loopholes. Your power lies in precise knowledge, not hopeful gestures. The following case studies provide that knowledge. They are blueprints for those who have found the standard maps leading to dead ends. We begin with perhaps the most morally indefensible, yet most common, credit destroyer in modern American life. A story not of financial irresponsibility, but of biological misfortune. We begin our examination with the most insidious and morally fraught credit destroyer in the American financial ecosystem, the medical crisis. This is not a story of fiscal negligence, poor planning, or speculative risk. It is a story of how the simple act of becoming ill can systematically dismantle a meticulously built financial identity. Our subject, whom we will refer to as Sarah, exemplifies this modern tragedy. Sarah was the portrait of conventional financial success. A project manager in her late 30s, she maintained a FICO score of 780. Her credit report was a testament to discipline. A 15-year-old student loan paid as agreed, 2 credit cards with negligible balances paid in full each month, and a flawless payment history on her auto loan. Her financial shadow was not a specter but an asset, unlocking premium rates and effortless approvals. Then, biology intervened. A ruptured appendix led to an emergency surgery, a complicated recovery, and a cascade of bills. The final blow was the discovery that the lead surgeon on her emergency procedure was out of network, a detail rendered meaningless in a moment of medical necessity, but catastrophic in its financial aftermath. The avalanche began not with a single massive debt, but with a granular hailstorm of invoices. The hospital, the anesthesiologist, the surgical group, the laboratory. Despite having insurance, her deductibles, copays, and the staggering out-of-network charges left her with over $42,000 in medical debt. Her 780 credit score did not gently decline. It underwent a precipitous collapse, plummeting to 520 within 18 months. This was not the result of profligate spending. It was the algorithmic penalty for survival. The wrong turns, the paralysis phase. Sarah's initial reactions were human, understandable, and utterly detrimental. Her first instinct was one of avoidance, born not from irresponsibility, but from overwhelming cognitive shock. The bills were complex, confusing, and arrived intermittently, creating a state of persistent anxiety. She placed them in a drawer, a physical manifestation of her hope that they might somehow resolve themselves. They did not. Her second instinct was to protect her immediate cash flow. As savings dwindled, she began utilizing her credit cards to pay for living expenses and even some of the smaller medical bills. This critical error transformed unsecured medical debt, which, as we will see, occupies a unique category, into revolving consumer debt, the very type of obligation scoring models punish most severely. Her credit utilization ratio soared from 4% to 68%, triggering a massive score deduction. Furthermore, by engaging with the debts piecemeal, she inadvertently reset the date of last activity on some accounts, a toxic update in the eyes of the scoring algorithm. Finally, believing in the benevolence of the system, she made the fateful assumption that the hospital's billing department was a partner in resolution. Her protracted, emotional negotiations led to vague promises and small payment plans that did not prevent accounts from sliding into collections. The first collection notice was a psychological breaking point, cementing a feeling of shame and defeat that led to full financial paralysis. Her credit was not just damaged, it was abandoned. The right way intervention, surgical precision. Sarah's recovery began not with a dispute letter, but with a forensic triage. The principle here is categorization before confrontation. Medical debt is not monolithic, and the strategies applied must reflect its distinct nature, especially following key industry changes. Phase 1, the forensic triage. The first action was a complete moratorium on payments and emotional calls. Instead, every document was gathered. Each bill was categorized into 3 distinct buckets. 1. Hospital institutional bills subject to potential charitable care policies or internal financial aid. 2. Physician supplier bills that might be negotiated for a lower cash payoff. And 3. Debts already sold to third-party collection agencies. This last bucket was further subdivided by age and amount. The critical insight here was understanding the 2022 policy shifts by the 3 major credit bureaus. They agreed to remove paid medical collection accounts from credit reports and to increase the reporting threshold for medical collections from $0 to over $500. This changed the entire battlefield. The goal shifted from merely paying to strategically leveraging these new rules for deletion. Phase 2. Strategic tiered communication. With the triage complete, a communication protocol was enacted, devoid of emotion and rich in specificity. For the hospital bills, the approach was to apply for formal financial aid through the hospital's charity care program, a step 80% of eligible patients never take. This required submitting tax returns and hardship letters, not pleading phone calls. For outstanding physician bills not yet in collections, the strategy was a single formal offer of a lump sum settlement for a significantly reduced amount, with the condition that the account be recalled from any collection reporting and reported as paid in full to the bureaus if it had already been reported. For accounts already with collection agencies, the tactic was the pay for delete request. However, this was not a hopeful ask. It was a transactional negotiation conducted via postal mail with a clear offer. I will pay this debt in full or a settled amount upon receipt of a written agreement that you will request the complete deletion of this trade line from all 3 credit bureaus. The key was obtaining this agreement in writing before any payment changed hands. The updated bureau policies on medical debt made agencies more amenable to this, as they knew the paid account would soon be removed anyway. Phase 3. Building the parallel track, the anchor account. While this negotiated settlement process unfolded over months, Sarah could not remain in credit stasis. A parallel path was initiated. The cornerstone of this was what we term an anchor account. She was directed to a specific local credit union known for a clear, reliable program of graduating secured credit cards to unsecured status after a period of perfect management. She deposited $500 to secure a $500 limit. The instruction was ritualistic. One small recurring subscription, less than $20, was charged to the card each month. The card was set to autopay the full statement balance from her checking account. This created an impervious, automated cycle of perfect payment history and, critically, a utilization rate under 4%. This microscopic utilization is a powerful, often overlooked signal of extreme control, far more positive than the commonly cited under 30% benchmark. The result and the foundational insight. The process was neither quick nor easy. It required 16 months of disciplined execution. The result, however, was a transformation. Sarah's credit score did not just recover. It was rebuilt on a more resilient foundation, climbing from 520 to a solid 720. The medical collections were deleted. Her new anchor account graduated to an unsecured card with a $2,000 limit, aging gracefully on her report. More than the number, she regained tangible financial access. She secured a lower premium on her auto insurance, and her rental application for a new apartment was approved without a hefty security deposit. The shocking foundational insight from Sarah's case is this. The modern credit system treats medical debt with a paradoxical duality. It is both a severe scoring poison and a uniquely removable toxin. The 2022 policy changes created a backdoor. The critical mistake most consumers make is treating a $600 medical collection the same as a $600 credit card charge-off. They are not. The strategy must be bifurcated. Aggressively pursue deletion for medical debt through negotiated settlements that exploit the Bureau's own new rules, while simultaneously constructing a new, pristine payment history on a separate track. The victory is won not by fighting the old shadow hardest, but by strategically diminishing its outline while shining a new, brighter light alongside it. This case demonstrates that recovery from external catastrophe is possible, but it demands a clinical, unsentimental approach that replaces panic with procedure. Our next case study, however, presents a different challenge, a credit implosion born not from external misfortune, but from the deliberate, high-stakes risk of entrepreneurship. Our second exploration moves from the realm of external catastrophe into the volatile world of self-inflicted, high-stakes financial combustion. This is the story of the entrepreneur, the individual for whom the foundational principle of separating personal and business finance becomes a catastrophic lesson learned in retrospect. Our subject, David, embodies the archetype of the ambitious founder whose personal creditworthiness becomes collateral for a business dream. David was a software developer with a compelling vision. He launched an LLC, pouring his savings into the venture. As is perilously common among small business owners, he leveraged his pristine personal credit to fuel the company's growth. He signed personal guarantees for a business line of credit, used business credit cards for which he was personally liable, and even financed essential equipment through personal loans. His personal and business financial identities were not just intertwined, they were one and the same. For 2 years, this strategy worked. Then, market shifts, client attrition, and operational costs converged. The business failed. The LLC provided no magical liability shield for the debts he had personally guaranteed. When the business accounts were exhausted, lenders turned to David, the individual. The result was a complete financial evisceration, charge-offs, maxed out cards, and ultimately, a judgment from a relentless commercial lender. His credit score, once in the high 700s, lay in the low 500s, a financial corpse. David's psychological state was distinct from Sarah's paralysis. His dominant emotion was not fear, but defiance, a potent yet dangerous mindset. He viewed the credit system as an illegitimate obstacle to his ambition, a force to be battled rather than a system to be understood. This defiance, while a source of resilience, became his primary strategic obstacle. The wrong turns, the defiance trap. David's initial responses were aggressive, reactive, and structurally flawed. His first critical error was the foundational conflation of entities, using personal credit instruments for business purposes. This pierced the corporate veil he had tried to erect, making his personal assets the final recourse for business creditors. His second misstep was one of omission, driven by frustration. Upon the business's collapse, he ignored all collection communications, viewing them as affronts to his dignity. This allowed charge-offs to solidify and enabled one creditor to secure a default judgment against him. A judgment is a nuclear event on a credit report, a public record that signals the highest level of risk and severely restricts future financial mobility. Third, in his defiance, he prematurely gravitated toward Chapter 7 bankruptcy as a symbolic reset button, a way to metaphorically burn the entire structure to the ground. While bankruptcy can be a legitimate tool, David's attraction to it was emotional, a desire for a clean, decisive end to the harassment. He failed to conduct a cold, analytical assessment of the long-term opportunity cost, the 7 to 10-year reporting period, the severe limitation on access to new credit during that time, and the specific damage to his ability to secure future business financing, which was core to his identity. The right way intervention, the strategic rebuild. David's recovery required a fundamental shift from defiance to cold, pragmatic gamesmanship. The goal was not to protest the system's rules, but to exploit them with precision to construct a new financial identity in parallel with managing the old. Phase 1, the legal and strategic landscape audit. The intervention began with a stark assessment of his liabilities, categorized by their legal potency and strategic negotiability. Judgments. The existing judgment was the top priority. It could lead to wage garnishment and bank account levies. The strategy involved negotiating a settlement with the judgment holder to satisfy the debt in exchange for filing a satisfaction of judgment with the court. Crucially, the negotiation included a request for the creditor to withdraw the original reporting of the debt as a charge-off, a difficult but sometimes possible concession once the judgment was satisfied. Charge-offs versus collections. For other debts, a critical distinction was made between accounts still held by the original creditor, charge-offs, and those sold to third-party collection agencies. Settlements were pursued aggressively with third-party collectors, as they had purchased the debt for pennies and were more amenable to deep discounts and pay-for-delete agreements. For original creditor charge-offs, the focus was on negotiating a paid-in-full-for-deletion status, though this is often harder to achieve. The statute of limitations, SOL. Each debt was evaluated against its state's SOL for collection lawsuits. For debts nearing or past the SOL, the strategy shifted dramatically. The priority became avoiding any action that would re-age the debt or restart the SOL clock, such as making a partial payment or even acknowledging the debt in writing. These were placed in a do not engage category. Phase 2, building a new credit persona. The controversial parallel path. David could not afford to wait the 2 to 3 years it would take for settled debts to age and lose their sting. He needed to inject positive payment history into his report immediately. This led to the most controversial element of his recovery, the deliberate construction of a new credit persona. The first, non-controversial step was obtaining a secured credit builder loan from a digital-first bank like Self or Credit Strong. These loans report to all 3 bureaus as installment loans. The borrower makes payments into a locked savings account and receives the principal back at the end of the term. It creates a flawless payment history without granting access to more credit. The second, more advanced tactic was the strategic use of an authorized user, AU position. This is not the familial, informal addition to a spouse's card. David was added as an AU to a seasoned credit card account, high limit, perfect payment history for over a decade, low utilization, held by a trusted associate through a formal, written agreement facilitated by a professional. This account's positive history flowed onto David's report, providing an immediate, substantial boost to his score by increasing his average age of accounts and total available credit. This tactic must be framed with extreme caution. It requires absolute trust, a clear legal agreement, and carries risk for the primary account holder. It is a powerful tool that exists in a gray ethical area, but is perfectly legal. It is the financial equivalent of a bone graft, using healthy existing tissue to accelerate the healing of a severe fracture. Phase 3, credit stacking and reestablishing primary history. With the AU trade line and credit builder loan establishing a new foundation, David began credit stacking. After 6 months of perfect AU history, he applied for and secured a secured credit card from a major issuer, using it with the same microscopic utilization protocol as Sarah. He now had 3 new positive accounts reporting, an installment loan and 2 revolving accounts, the AU card and his secured card, creating a diversified, modern credit mix. The result and the foundational insight. David's journey was one of intense strategic focus over 18 months. His score rose from the low 500s to a functional 680. More importantly, the judgment was satisfied and reported as such. The most damaging charge-offs were settled, and he had constructed a new clean credit profile with 3 positive trade lines. This was sufficient to qualify for a reliable used vehicle loan, essential for his new role in sales. The shocking foundational insight from David's case is this. For the entrepreneur, credit recovery is not merely about repair. It is about corporate restructuring for the individual. The system is inherently hostile to the commingling of personal and business risk. Therefore, the successful strategy requires operating on 2 parallel tracks. One track engages in hard-nosed legal and financial triage of the past business debts, settlements, SOL management, while the other track aggressively and creatively builds a new, separate, personal credit identity from the ground up, using every legal instrument available, including the strategic contractual use of authorized user status. The system rewards the appearance of stability and long-term history. Sometimes you must import that history to survive. The goal is not to hide the past, but to strategically manage its decay while simultaneously cultivating a thriving new financial present that eventually overwhelms it. This case reveals that recovery from self-inflicted collapse demands a dispassionate, almost corporate strategy. Our final case study, however, presents a different challenge entirely: a credit disaster caused by a broken legal promise and the relentless impersonal logic of data reporting. Our final case study examines a profound systemic failure, one where the formal legal framework of civil society collides with and is rendered inert by the automated, immoral machinery of credit reporting. This is not a story of misfortune or entrepreneurial risk, but of institutional betrayal. Our subject, Lisa, represents the individual who receives a legal decree promising financial protection, only to discover that credit bureaus are not bound by family court orders. Lisa's divorce was finalized with a comprehensive settlement agreement. A key stipulation, common in such documents, stated that her former husband would retain the marital home and was solely responsible for the remaining mortgage payments. The decree was signed by a judge, a document carrying the full weight of the law. Lisa, believing herself protected, moved on. Unbeknownst to her, her ex-husband began missing payments. Because the mortgage was a joint obligation originating during the marriage, each missed payment was reported to the credit bureaus against both of their Social Security numbers. 12 consecutive late payments, from 30 to 90 days delinquent, accumulated on Lisa's credit report before a routine credit check for an apartment application revealed the carnage. Her score, once in the mid-760s, had been dragged into the low 600s. The emotional devastation was multidimensional. It compounded the personal betrayal with a profound sense of institutional helplessness. Lisa's psychological state was defined by a corrosive exhaustion. The emotional capital expended during the divorce proceedings left her with no reserves for a new, technical financial battle. This exhaustion, more than ignorance, was her primary adversary. The wrong turns, the assumption of symmetry. Lisa's initial missteps were rooted in a logical but fatal assumption that the legal world and the financial reporting world were aligned and communicated. Her first and most significant error was believing the divorce decree automatically insulated her credit. She assumed the mortgage company would update its records based on the court order, or that her ex-husband's violation of the decree was a matter for the court, not the credit bureaus. This is a nearly universal and costly misconception. Credit bureaus compile data furnished by lenders. They do not adjudicate legal disputes or review divorce settlements. Her second error was in her mode of dispute. When she discovered the inaccuracies, she filed standard online disputes with the three major bureaus, stating the account was not hers or should be her ex-husband's responsibility. These disputes were swiftly marked, verified, and closed. The furnisher, the mortgage servicer, confirmed the factual accuracy of the data. The loan was in her name, and the payments were late. The nuance of the divorce decree was irrelevant to their automated verification system. Each failed dispute deepened her sense of futility. The right way intervention, documentary warfare, and regulatory leverage. Lisa's recovery required abandoning the hope for understanding and instead waging a precise, paper-based campaign that attacked the reporting failure on technical, procedural grounds. The strategy shifted from arguing fairness to enforcing compliance. Phase 1. Shifting the grounds of battle, permissible purpose, and data integrity. The standard not mine dispute was a dead end. A new, multi-pronged legalistic offensive was launched via certified mail, dispute based on incomplete reporting, Regulation VI. The Fair Credit Reporting Act, FCRA, requires that information be reported in a manner that is not misleading. A dispute was filed asserting that reporting the account without also reporting the consumer's status as a co-obliger with liability determined by a divorce decree was incomplete and therefore misleading. The demand was for the bureaus to either add a special comment to the trade line noting the court-ordered liability or to suppress the late payments. Direct furnisher dispute, FCRA Section 623. A separate, formal dispute was sent directly to the mortgage servicer's legal compliance department. This letter cited the divorce decree, highlighted their failure to report the co-obliger status accurately, and invoked their duty under the FCRA to conduct a reasonable investigation upon receipt of a consumer dispute. It included a copy of the relevant page of the divorce decree. Leveraging Regulation B, Equal Credit Opportunity Act. This was the critical, less utilized lever. Regulation B governs credit transactions and specifically addresses accounts opened in the names of both spouses. A sophisticated argument was made that the continued reporting of the late payments against Lisa, without reflecting the court-determined separation of liability, could be construed as a form of discrimination based on marital status. This regulatory threat articulated in formal correspondence to both the furnisher and the bureaus, elevated the dispute beyond a simple data error to a potential compliance violation. Phase 2. The rapid rescore gambit, a surgical strike. Simultaneously, Lisa was connected with a seasoned mortgage broker. Once the furnisher, under pressure from the regulatory arguments, signaled in writing a willingness to correct the reporting, the broker initiated a rapid rescore. This is a proprietary, fee-based service offered by third-party companies that work directly with credit bureaus and lenders. It is used almost exclusively in mortgage lending to quickly update a credit report after errors are corrected or debts are paid, but before the standard 30 to 45-day reporting cycle. It is the nuclear option for speed. The broker submitted the formal documentation from the mortgage servicer, agreeing to update Lisa's payment history to current or remove the late payments. Within 72 hours, her credit report was updated and her score was recalculated, excising the 12 late payments. Phase 3. Establishing sole survivorship and forensic severance. With the immediate fire extinguished, the final phase was preventive forensic severance. Lisa formally requested the removal of her name from the mortgage deed through a quitclaim deed, as per the divorce decree, though this does not remove the loan obligation. Obtained written confirmation from the mortgage servicer of her exempt status for future reporting, contingent on her ex-husband's payments. Conducted a forensic audit of all other joint accounts, credit cards, lines of credit from the marriage, ensuring they were either closed or refinanced into individual names. She then established a suite of financial products, checking, savings, credit card, in her name only, creating a fully independent financial identity. The result and the foundational insight. The outcome was swift and decisive. Within 90 days, a time frame almost unheard of in standard credit repair, all 12 late payments were removed from Lisa's credit report. Her score rebounded to 750. The rapid rescore process, though costly, was justified by the immediacy of her need to secure housing. The shocking foundational insight from Lisa's case is this. In conflicts between legal systems and data systems, victory is achieved through technical, regulatory precision, not moral appeal. The credit bureaus are data processors, not courts of equity. Winning requires speaking their language, the language of permissible purpose, data completeness, and regulatory compliance, FCRA Regulation B. The average consumer and even most credit repair agencies fail at this because they dispute the fact of the late payment, not the manner and completeness of its reporting. The successful strategy is to bypass the low-level dispute analyst by launching a coordinated assault on multiple technical fronts, directly at the furnisher and at the bureaus under specific regulations, forcing a compliance-based correction. The system can be made to work in your favor, but only if you attack its procedural flaws with greater precision than it uses to defend them. This case concludes our trilogy of financial catastrophes. Each required a unique, counterintuitive playbook. From the medical to the entrepreneurial to the systemic legal, the common thread is the absolute necessity of replacing emotional reaction with a strategic, systematic, and technically sophisticated operation. The preceding narratives, the medical avalanche, the entrepreneurial implosion, the divorce earthquake, are not merely isolated tales of distress and recovery. They are, in essence, a detailed map revealing 3 distinct topographies of financial ruin, each requiring a unique compass to navigate toward solvency. However, beneath their surface-level differences lies a unified architectural blueprint. This final section synthesizes the core principles and operational phases that constitute the foundational architecture of a genuine credit comeback, transforming isolated case studies into a replicable strategic framework. Synthesizing the foundational principles, the recovery of Sarah, David, and Lisa was governed by 4 non-negotiable principles that must precede any tactical action. The principle of forensic triage. Before confrontation, emotional or indiscriminate action is the primary enemy of recovery. Every successful intervention began with a period of intentional pause, a moratorium on payments and panic, to conduct a cold analytical audit of the entire credit landscape. This involves categorizing liabilities by type, medical versus consumer, Legal status, charge-off versus judgment versus collection, age, and amount. As demonstrated, a medical collection under $500 demands a different strategy than a business charge-off nearing the statute of limitations. You cannot fight an enemy you have not clearly identified and ranked by threat level. The principle of parallel path construction. Traditional advice follows a linear sequence. Clean up your report, then build new credit. This is a critical error that wastes precious time. The most powerful strategy, as evidenced by David's authorized user tactic and Sarah's anchor account, is to operate on parallel tracks. One track systematically manages the decay and removal of negative items through negotiation and regulatory dispute. Simultaneously, a second, independent track is activated to build a new, pristine credit history using secured instruments, credit builder loans, and strategic authorized user arrangements. This creates a bridge of positive payment history, while the negative items are being addressed, preventing your score from remaining in stasis. The principle of precision over pleading. The credit reporting system is an algorithmic and procedural engine. It does not respond to hardship narratives or appeals to fairness, as Lisa's initial failures proved. It responds to specific, legally coded triggers. Success requires replacing emotional language with the precise terminology of compliance. Incomplete reporting under Regulation 5, duty to reinvestigate under FCRA Section 623, or potential marital status discrimination under Regulation B. Victory is achieved by being more technically accurate and procedurally rigorous than the automated systems and low-level analysts you are challenging. The principle of behavioral lock-in. Ultimately, the score is a lagging indicator of financial behavior. The final, sustaining phase of any comeback is the automation of the behaviors that scoring models reward. This means establishing systems that guarantee a utilization rate under 10%, ideally under 4%, and a 100% on-time payment rate indefinitely. This is the lock-in that transforms a recovered score into a permanent asset. The step-by-step blueprint, the operational phases. Based on these principles, your strategic blueprint unfolds across 4 sequential, yet often overlapping, phases. Phase 1, the forensic audit and strategic hold. Action, obtain your official reports from annualcreditreport.com. Do not rely on monitoring service summaries. Analysis, create a spreadsheet. For each trade line, note creditor, account type, status, current charged-off collection, balance, date of first delinquency, statute of limitations, and whether it is medical or consumer debt. Mindset. This is a diagnostic phase. Make no payments, no emotional calls. You are a general surveying a battlefield. Phase 2, the triaged battle plan and negotiation. Categorize and prioritize, using your audit bucket liabilities. Highest priority, any active judgments or debts that can trigger wage garnishment. Next, medical debts eligible for deletion under new policies. Then, third-party collections for negotiation. Finally, older charge-offs nearing the SOL, which may be best left dormant. Execute negotiations. Communicate only in writing, certified mail. For collections, aim for a pay-for-delete in writing before payment. For medical debts, leverage the 2022 Bureau policies. For errors like Lisa's, craft disputes based on incomplete reporting and regulatory violations, not simple denials. Phase 3, the parallel foundation build. Immediate action. Open a secured credit builder loan, e.g., Self-Credit Strong, to establish a new, positive installment loan history. Anchor account. Simultaneously, open a secured credit card from a reputable issuer known for graduation, e.g., Discover, Capital One, or a local credit union. Fund it. Set up one tiny recurring charge and automate full payment. Advanced tactic, if applicable and with extreme caution. Explore the possibility of becoming a paid authorized user on a seasoned, perfectly managed account through a formal, written agreement. This is a powerful accelerator, but carries significant relationship and financial risk. Phase 4, the behavioral lock and scale. Automate. Set all new accounts to auto-pay the full statement balance from a dedicated checking account. Never close your oldest positive account. Monitor and scale. After 6 to 12 months of perfect management on your new accounts, seek to graduate your secured card or apply for an entry-level unsecured card to increase your total available credit, further suppressing your utilization ratio. Maintain vigilance. Continue annual report checks. The rebuilt profile is robust, but requires consistent, disciplined management. Final synthesis and the path forward. These case studies from the Forbidden Vault reveal a consistent, uncomfortable truth. The common generic path to credit repair is a path to mediocrity at best. At worst, it perpetuates a cycle of frustration and financial stagnation. The individuals who achieve not just recovery, but mastery are those who reject the one-size-fits-all mantra. They understand that a medical debt, a business guarantee, and a divorce decree are fundamentally different financial injuries, each requiring a specialized surgical protocol. The information presented here is foundational, but it is merely the exposed portion of a much deeper architecture. The strategies around rapid rescoring, the nuanced use of Regulation B, the intricate vetting for authorized user positions, the specific negotiation scripts for different debt types. These are the advanced instruments in the toolkit of financial recovery. This is where your journey must evolve from passive consumption to active engagement. If the principles of forensic triage, parallel construction, and precision warfare resonate with you, if you feel the unease that signifies you are ready to move beyond simplistic advice and into the realm of strategic execution, then your next step is critical. You must seek a community and a resource dedicated not to generic tips, but to the continuous dissection of real, complex financial recoveries. You need to see these principles animated, to witness the dissection of new, ever more complex case studies from the vault, and to stay abreast of the evolving tactics in a dynamic system. Therefore, your immediate action is this. Go to YouTube. In the search bar, type Credit Comeback Stories. Find that channel and subscribe. Tap the notification bell. On that channel, we deconstruct these strategies in deeper detail. We analyze the evolving algorithms, interview specialists who operate within the credit ecosystem, and provide a forum for those committed to the precise, disciplined path of financial resurrection. This is not about quick fixes. It is about building an unassailable financial identity. Your comeback story is unique. The blueprint to build it, however, exists. The first step is to arm yourself with the right knowledge, persistently and consistently. We have laid the foundation here. The rest of the structure awaits you. Your comeback begins now. We will see you on the channel.